They say if you're lucky, betrayal knocks. But mine? It used calligraphy. It was a Thursday morning, the kind that starts with leftover coffee and the bitter scent of midlife. I was reviewing some invoices in my home office, just another day of trying to hold down the quiet chaos of suburban dignity, when I heard the doorbell ring. At first, I figured it was the mailman, or maybe one of those teenagers pushing solar panels with rehearsed concern about my carbon footprint. But what I found taped to the inside of my glass front door was far stranger. A plain manila envelope. No stamp. No name. Just 2 words, scrawled across the front in a rushed, uneven hand. Open now. Now I'm not the paranoid type. I'm a numbers guy, retired financial consultant with a deep love for clean spreadsheets and simple routines. But that envelope? It had weight. Not in mass. In intent. I pulled it off the glass and took it inside. My wife, Natalie, was still upstairs, probably in one of her marathon Zoom calls where she pretends to care about client satisfaction while simultaneously online shopping for home aesthetics. I opened the envelope at the kitchen island. Out fell a single photograph. It was grainy, like it had been taken from a distance. But clear enough. Natalie, wearing a dress I had never seen before, black, silky, low-cut, leaning intimately into a man I'd never met. His hand rested on her thigh like it lived there. I stared at it for a full 30 seconds. Not because I couldn't believe it, but because I could. And that realization settled in my gut like a stone. No note. No explanation. Just the image. But the picture said everything. It screamed. I flipped it over. One sentence written on the back. This isn't the first time. Natalie floated downstairs about 20 minutes after I found the photo, blissfully unaware that her husband of 11 years had just been handed front-row tickets to a show he never asked to attend. She was dressed in joggers, her hair in a ponytail, and carrying her lemon-infused water like she was auditioning for a lifestyle blog. Same woman. Same voice. But I swear, I heard every syllable differently now. Morning, babe, she said, kissing my cheek without waiting for a reply. I've got 3 back-to-backs today. Can you feed Barkley? Our dog, Barkley, was a pug with trust issues and IBS. Feeding him was a strategic endeavor. Sure, I said. I watched her walk to the fridge, pull out her usual overpriced yogurt, and pretend to scroll her phone like she wasn't moonlighting in emotional arson. You okay? She asked, without looking up. It was a question fired from habit, not concern. Yeah, I replied. Just got an interesting delivery. That made her pause. Briefly. Barely. Then she nodded like she hadn't heard me and kept scrolling. She wasn't listening, but I was watching. You see, it's a strange thing, realizing your marriage is a hologram. 1 minute, you're building IKEA furniture together and laughing about missing screws, and the next, you're staring at the person across from you wondering how many lies are woven into their breakfast routine. She finally looked up. You're acting weird. Is it work stuff? Something like that. She leaned against the counter, spoon in mouth. Well, let me know if you need to talk. You know I'm here for you. The irony nearly knocked me off the stool. And yet, I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because something inside me whispered, don't waste this moment on shock. Play it smarter. I needed more than a smoking gun. I needed motive, pattern, intent. I didn't want to stop this story at the betrayal. I wanted to know how deep the rot went. And that meant playing dumb. For now. She kissed me on the forehead before heading upstairs. I'll be in meetings until 3, she said. Don't forget your dentist appointment. Right. The dentist. Because what's more fun than plaque removal after a personal apocalypse? As she disappeared upstairs, I looked down at the photograph again. The smirk on her face in that photo didn't belong to someone momentarily confused. That was comfort. Familiarity. Repetition. So I made myself a promise right then. If she wants to lie, I'll give her the space to do it comfortably. And when it all comes down, she won't see it coming. I spent the next few days pretending to be the husband I had been before the envelope. Attentive, predictable, non-threatening. Meanwhile, I became someone else entirely behind the scenes. Someone methodical, calculated, cold. I went through phone records, email drafts, deleted texts she didn't know were recoverable. Turns out, Natalie was sloppy in all the ways that matter once she thought she had me figured out. And me? I let her keep thinking that. It was Wednesday night when I found it. She left her laptop open on the coffee table while she showered. Normally, I wouldn't snoop. But the old rules? They retired the moment that photo hit my kitchen island. I clicked open her browser. She'd forgotten to close her Gmail tab. There it was. A thread marked, "Work Retreat Agenda, Confidential." Except this work retreat had nothing to do with business. Unless you count her career in corporate deceit. It was him again. Same guy from the photo. His name? Colin. A project manager from out of state. Divorced. Drives a Tesla. Of course. "Can't wait to see you again this weekend," he wrote. "That dress you wore last time is still stuck in my head. Booked the same suite. You know the one." I stared at the screen, fingers frozen above the keys. Not just betrayal, routine betrayal. Planned weekends. Booked suites. It wasn't a mistake. It was a lifestyle. I clicked into her calendar. Sure enough, she'd marked the weekend as Women's Business Conference. The attention to detail was honestly impressive. When she stepped out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, humming to herself like a Disney character, I was already back on the couch, TV remote in hand. She glanced at me. "Did you eat already?" "Yeah," I said, smiling. "Didn't want to interrupt your bubble bath summit." She blinked. "What?" "Nothing," I added. "Just something stupid I read." She nodded and walked past, still drying her hair. I sat there in the glow of the TV screen. The image of that email thread burned into my mind. She didn't just cheat. She curated it. And now, I had everything I needed. Not just to leave, but to finish the story my way. The thing about revenge is that it's not loud. Not if you want it to matter. Real revenge is quiet, measured, patient. Like a man building a house while everyone else is still arguing over the blueprint. And I had my blueprint. The moment I saw that email thread, everything shifted. Colin, Mr. Tesla from out of town, wasn't just a fling. He was a repeated offense. A booked suite kind of man. The kind you trust with pillow talk and post-shower laughter. That kind of intimacy doesn't happen overnight. Which meant this had been going on for months. Maybe longer. That night, while Natalie watched some reality show upstairs, I sat in my office with a legal pad and a cheap pen, sketching out a list that would make Machiavelli proud. I wasn't going to throw a tantrum. I wasn't going to flip tables or send a dramatic, "you betrayed me" email in Comic Sans. No, I was going to bury her with grace. Step 1, play happy. It was the hardest part, but also the most important. I had to become the man she believed she'd outsmarted. Passive, gullible, emotionally toothless. I kissed her good morning, brought her coffee in bed, even offered to drive her to the airport for her Women's Business Conference. "Oh, that's sweet," she said, startled. "But I already booked an Uber." "No problem," I smiled. "Just wanted to spend a little extra time with you." She smiled, kissed me, told me I was the best. I nodded. "I know." Step 2, gather assets. Quietly, Natalie and I had a joint bank account. But like most modern couples, we also had our personal ones. Hers was tied to a boutique investment portfolio she didn't know I helped set up, back when I thought for better or worse meant something. Lucky for me, she used the same password for everything. Her high school mascot and the year we got married. Nostalgic and lazy. Two of her favorite qualities. I transferred my half of our joint savings into a new private account, one she didn't know existed. I also froze all credit cards connected to me. Subtle, but effective. She wouldn't notice immediately. Maybe not for a few weeks. But when she did, the timing would feel personal. Because it would be. Step 3, document everything. Emails, hotel bookings, messages. I screenshot and saved every conversation between her and Colin. I even got creative, rented a separate iCloud storage under her name, and backed everything up there. Just in case. Call me paranoid, but I've watched enough true crime to know that if this were reversed, she'd already have a lawyer sipping espresso across from me, handing me color-coded binders labeled, "Reasons You Lose the House." And speaking of houses, step 4, the house. We bought it together, but I paid for it. Every down payment, every mortgage check, my income. I had the receipts. She had Pinterest boards. Still, I needed it airtight. So I called in an old client of mine, Peter Griggs, who specialized in divorce asset tracing. "Pete," I said, "how fast can you get me a full paper trail showing I own at least 80% of the equity?" He paused. "If you've got what you say you do." 2 days. "What?" "No reason. Just writing a love letter." He laughed. "Oh, one of those love letters." "Exactly." Step 5, the exit plan. She was gone for the weekend with Colin. Same suite, same lies. And I knew what would come next. She'd return glowing, relaxed, maybe even guiltier than usual, which meant she'd overcompensate with fake affection and long monologues about how hard women have it in the corporate world. I let her play her part. When she returned Sunday night, I had dinner ready. Steak, roasted potatoes, candles, the whole Norman Rockwell dreamscape. Wow, she said, surprised. What's the occasion? Just happy you're home, I said. How was the conference? Oh, she replied, sliding off her heels. Long, inspiring. Tiring. I'm just glad to be back. Of course you are, I thought. It's easier to lie when the lighting is dim and your husband's pouring wine. We ate. We laughed. She told a story about some fake keynote speaker who didn't exist. I nodded along, made mental notes, and asked questions with just the right amount of interest. Hey, she said toward the end, I was thinking, maybe we should book a weekend away. Just us. Somewhere sunny. Oh, I asked. What brought that on? She smiled gently. I just feel like we've been off, and I want to reconnect. The guilt phase always leads to emotional breadcrumbing. I played along. Yeah, I said. That sounds nice. We toasted. And right then, I knew. She had no idea. Later that night, while she showered again, rinsing off the scent of someone else's cologne, no doubt, I opened my laptop and finalized a document I'd been preparing all weekend, a timeline. Not a diary, not a manifesto, just a clean, irrefutable list of facts. Dates, emails, hotel bookings, bank transfers, evidence, not for her. For the people she respected most, her boss, her parents, and her book club, which, for some reason, she treated like a jury of moral philosophers. I had prepared envelopes, all labeled, all timed, but I wasn't sending them yet. No, that would come after she realized what I'd taken, what she lost, and what I was about to do. Because the next phase wasn't just about documenting her betrayal. It was about putting her in a world where every lie cost her something. And the first cost was coming Monday morning. Monday arrived dressed and calm. Natalie walked into the kitchen like she hadn't just spent a weekend playing house in a hotel room we'd never been to together. She was humming a little off-key, a little too cheerful for someone allegedly drained from 3 days of networking with female executives. I handed her coffee, black, no sugar, just how she liked it. She looked at me with an expression I had memorized over the years. Warm, distracted. The same face she wore on birthdays, brunches, and every lie she'd ever slipped into casual conversation. Thanks, babe, she said, sipping. You're in a good mood. Just focused, I replied. Got some things I'm knocking out today. She nodded, grabbed her work laptop, and headed for her home office, the one I built last year, back when I still thought teamwork meant the same thing to both of us. What she didn't know was that this Monday morning, her carefully constructed illusion was about to meet its first crack. 8:42 a.m. Her phone buzzed. She was mid-Zoom call, so she ignored it. A second buzz. Then a third. The screen lit up on the kitchen counter while she sipped her second coffee. I saw the name before she did. Maya, HR director. Now Maya isn't the warm, we're all family here type. She's the HR type who could fire you with a friendly smile and ask for your parking pass while doing it. Her messages were short, tight, urgent. Hey, can we talk? I need to clarify something about this weekend. There's a discrepancy in the event log. Natalie picked up the phone, her brow creased just slightly. She walked out of the room, trying to sound breezy. Hey, Maya. Yeah, what's up? I couldn't hear all of it, but I caught the important part. No. Of course I was at the conference. What do you mean, no record of attendance? I smiled and stirred my oatmeal. See, what Natalie hadn't thought of, because cheaters never really consider paperwork, is that company retreats come with receipts. And when you don't show up to one that's being paid for by your employer, and instead book a room at a completely different hotel with someone who's not your husband, well, questions tend to arise. Especially when an anonymous email hits your boss's inbox with the subject line, "Concerned about Natalie, please verify." Inside, a screenshot of her hotel reservation under a fake name. The attached Women in Tech conference didn't even exist that weekend. 10:06 a.m. Natalie came out of her office with the look of someone trying to convince herself everything was under control. You okay? I asked. She blinked. Yeah, just some mix-up with HR. Nothing serious. I nodded. Let me know if I can help. I watched her retreat back to her laptop like a criminal back to the scene. The unraveling had begun. 12:14 p.m. The doorbell rang. I opened it before she could even react. Standing there was a delivery guy with a small, sleek white envelope. Hand-addressed. No return label. Delivery for Natalie Granger, he said. She stepped into the hallway just as I accepted it. What's that? She asked, brow furrowed. Dunno, I said, handing it to her. Has your name on it. She opened it slowly, expecting perhaps a sample or an invitation. What she got was a single 4x6 glossy photo. The same one I found in the first envelope. Her. Colin. Hand on thigh. Smile on her face. She stared at it like it was a ghost come to collect a debt. What the hell is this? She whispered. You tell me, I said, stepping back and folding my arms. Someone's trying to mess with us, she stammered, shaking her head. This has to be fake. Really? I asked, voice even. Because that dress is real. And that smile? That's the one you used to give me. Her face drained of color. She knew. You went through my stuff, she said, going on the offensive. Always the same tactic. If caught, accuse. I shook my head. Nope. Someone sent it to me last week. You just finally got your copy. She dropped the photo on the counter like it burned. Is this some kind of joke? She asked, starting. No, Nat, I said calmly. This is a very expensive joke. And I'm the one paying for the punchline. 2:02 p.m. She canceled her afternoon meetings. Said she had a migraine. That was true, actually. Just not the kind Tylenol helps. I spent the afternoon acting like everything was fine. Took a walk. Answered emails. Returned a few calls. And somewhere in the background, Natalie began to unravel. She paced. She texted. I saw the reflection of her screen in the microwave as I poured water for tea, searching terms like, can HR fire me for lying about location? And what proof is needed for workplace misconduct termination? She knew something was coming. She just didn't know what. 6:30 p.m. Dinner was silent. She barely touched her food. I brought out the wine anyway. For the record, I said, halfway through my glass, this isn't even the part where you should be worried. She blinked. What? This, right now? It's just the warning shot. What are you talking about? I leaned forward. Nat, I know everything. Colin. The emails. The fake conferences. The second phone number you bought and kept in the glove box. I've got it all. Backed up. Dated. Distributed. Even your gym trainer knows I know. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I'm not going to yell, I said. I'm not going to scream. That would make this about emotions. And this isn't emotional anymore. It's logistical. Her lip trembled. You're going to leave me? No, I said, smiling. I'm going to let you stay. Just long enough to realize what life looks like when everything you manipulated starts slipping out of your hands. Her voice cracked. Why? Because unlike you, Natalie. I don't cheat. I finish what I start. Natalie wasn't used to silence. She was the kind of person who filled rooms without effort, laughing a touch louder than necessary, asking questions just to pivot the conversation back to herself, always the star of her own orbit. But now, she moved like a ghost through the house. The woman who once couldn't order sushi without taking a selfie now avoided mirrors. Because mirrors reflect. And Natalie didn't want to see what looked back. By Tuesday morning, the world had started whispering. It began with a phone call from her mother. I didn't eavesdrop. I didn't have to. I knew her mother's tone, the strained cocktail of judgment and passive aggression she usually reserved for waitstaff and poor weather. Hi, Mom. Yes, I got your message. A pause. No, I don't know who sent it. What email? Another pause. And then came the dagger. Of course it's photoshopped. Why would I? Her voice cracked like ice underfoot. She turned away from me as she spoke, but her shoulders sagged in a way that told me the defense wasn't sticking, not even to herself. When she hung up, she didn't say anything. She didn't have to. She knew someone, me, had sent the evidence to her mother's inbox with a subject line crafted for maximum maternal distress. Thought you'd want to see this before the neighbors do. Harsh? Maybe. But Natalie used to pride herself on reputation. Now she'd spend her days wondering who knew, and who was just too polite to bring it up. That's the thing about betrayal, it doesn't end in the act. It echoes. It spreads. Like red wine on white carpet. By midweek, the cracks had spider-webbed out further. Her best friend Lauren called. Loud. Dramatic. I could hear every syllable from across the room. Tell me it's not true, Nat. I'm serious. People are talking. HR? Your husband? What the hell is happening? Natalie fled the room, her voice pitched in urgent whispers. But it didn't matter. The message was clear. The circle was closing. You see, Lauren wasn't just her friend. She was her cover. Whenever Natalie stayed late at work or went on girls' weekends, Lauren's name got tossed around like an alibi. But alibis only work when no one checks the timestamp on the Instagram posts, especially the ones tagged from different cities. I sent Lauren a polite little folder. No comments. No threats. Just dates, times, photos. Enough to break the spell. I'd even titled it, "In case you're still defending her." Lauren hadn't replied, but she hadn't stayed quiet, either. By Thursday, the company issued a review of travel reimbursement protocols. Natalie tried to play it off like it wasn't about her. "It's just routine," she muttered at dinner, stabbing a fork into her salad like it had personally betrayed her. "We do this every year." "Sure," I said. "Makes sense." She hated how calm I was. Hated that I wasn't blowing up, losing it, storming out with luggage in hand. Because that would have given her the high ground. Made her the victim. But I didn't give her a single inch. I smiled. I listened. I offered refills. I was everything she pretended I wasn't for Colin. Composed, supportive, stable. And that scared her more than any fight would have. On Friday, the real fun started. Natalie's gym trainer, Marcus, sent me a message. "Hey man, not trying to get involved, but Natalie came by this morning real upset. Said you were trying to ruin her life. Just wanted to check in." Marcus was always neutral territory. Built like a gladiator, but sweet as a puppy. I liked him. So I wrote back. "All good, Marcus. She's just realizing consequences have a longer memory than convenience." He left it at that. Smart man. But I knew Natalie had gone to him because she thought maybe, just maybe, he hadn't heard yet. Which meant she hadn't figured it out. It wasn't the messages or the photos that broke her life apart. It was the fact pattern. The math. The receipts. And the thing about facts? They don't need to scream. They just exist. That night, after another dinner filled with stilted small talk and chewed silences, she finally broke. She stood by the sink, arms crossed, and said the words I'd been waiting for. "Why are you doing this?" Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I messed up." Not even, "Let's talk." Just, "Why are you doing this?" I set my fork down. "You mean why am I holding up the mirror?" Her eyes were glassy. She wasn't crying yet, but you could see the pressure building. "I made a mistake, okay? But you're making it into a war." "No, Natalie," I said softly. "You made a series of decisions. I just built the museum exhibit." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Like a fish tossed on shore, gasping for the right words. "You're trying to destroy me," she whispered. I shook my head. "You did that yourself. I just sent out the invitations." She looked like she might scream. Or collapse. Or both. But she didn't. She turned and walked out. No dramatic slamming of the door. No tears. Just the quiet steps of someone who finally saw the first layer peeled back. Because here's the thing about people like Natalie. They only confess when the world stops giving them applause. And my goal was to take the spotlight away, inch by inch, until she couldn't remember who she'd been performing for. Saturday morning arrived with gray skies and a mood to match. Natalie had barely left the bedroom. Her phone sat on the kitchen counter, face down, which was a miracle considering she'd once said separation anxiety set in if she couldn't see her notifications every 5 minutes. I was halfway through my coffee when the doorbell rang. She flinched. "Expecting someone?" I asked. She shook her head. "No." I opened the door to a man in a charcoal gray suit holding a document envelope with all the elegance of a blackjack dealer. "Logan Granger?" he asked. "That's me." "Service complete," he said, handing me the envelope. "Have a good day, sir." I stepped back inside, set the envelope on the kitchen table, and nodded at Natalie. "This is for you." She looked at it like it might bite. "What is it?" "It's a clean slate," I said. "Or at least the legal version of one." She walked over, trembling slightly, and opened it with fingers that had once texted Colin with such confidence. Inside, divorce papers. My terms. Clear. Unapologetic. She read silently for a while. Page after page of cold, organized closure. "No alimony," I said. "I keep the house. You keep your car. Retirement accounts stay untouched. I've already split the savings 50/50ths and sent your half to a new account. You can access it today." Her lip trembled. "You're letting me go?" "Just like that." "I'm not letting you go, Natalie. I'm done." She blinked, processing. "I figured you'd want a war," she said quietly. "I did," I replied. "But then I realized you weren't worth the emotional labor." She didn't sign the papers right away. Instead, She tried one last campaign, the last gasp of someone who didn't know how to lose. She went to her mother's house, claimed I was cold, claimed I had lost my mind, claimed I'd manipulated the truth. Her mother called me. I didn't answer. Then came Lauren. She texted me. She's saying you're trying to ruin her life. I responded. She did that herself. I'm just offering her the dignity of a quiet ending. Lauren never replied again. I heard from HR too. Not directly, but the word made its way back through a mutual connection. Natalie was under review. Her travel logs didn't match. Her explanations didn't land. Her reputation as a trusted leader had dissolved. 1 week later, her LinkedIn quietly changed. Former was now part of her job title. I didn't gloat, but I did open a bottle of whiskey that night and sat on the porch, watching the rain hit the pavement like a metronome for poetic justice. She came back one night. Didn't text first. Just showed up. It was late, close to midnight. I just finished organizing some old boxes in the garage when I saw her headlights crawl into the driveway like a dog hoping not to be scolded. I opened the door before she could knock. She looked thinner. Not physically, just smaller. Deflated. I signed them, she said, holding up the manila envelope. All right, I replied. She hesitated. Can I come in? Do you need to? Silence. Then she laughed bitterly. You know, I always thought if we ever ended, it would be with yelling, crying, broken dishes. No, I said. You thought you'd cry. And I'd apologize. She swallowed hard. I don't know who I am anymore. That makes two of us, I said. I used to think I was your husband. Turns out I was just your audience. She set the envelope on the table, turned, and walked away. No more words. No final look. Just silence. The kind that sounds like victory. People ask me sometimes, how did I really get revenge? I tell them, I didn't torch her car. I didn't publish the emails or blast her online. I didn't shout, scream, or throw her out in the street. No, I made her invisible. I took back the attention, the belief, the platform. I erased her from the role of protagonist in my life and replaced her with peace. Revenge wasn't about humiliation. It was about silence. Silence in her career, where her name now carried the weight of suspicion. Silence in her family, where her mother stopped defending and started praying. Silence in her friendships, where even loyal lies couldn't keep the truth buried. And silence from me, because the cruelest thing I ever did to Natalie was stop seeing her. She cheated expecting chaos. I gave her calm. And that's what broke her. As for me, I bought a new couch, repainted the house, got a dog that actually listens, started sleeping with both eyes closed, started living like someone who didn't need permission to be whole. I don't miss her, but sometimes I think about the envelope, the first one, and I wonder, was it a friend? A stranger? A bitter ex of Colin's? Doesn't matter. Whoever it was, they didn't destroy my life. They delivered it back to me.